now we are going to see percentage increase or decrease. So if suppose any number is 200, what will happen if we increase it by 20%, or suppose if we decrease it by 20%. So in this case we can simply multiply 200 into 1.2, or in this case we can simply multiply 200 by 0.8. So what we are doing, why we are multiplying it by 1.2? So if we see 200 plus 200 into 20%, so if we expand it 20 into 100, we can, and if we take 200 common, we will get 1 plus 20 by 100, that is 200 into 1.2. So if we have to increase 200 by 10%, then we will multiply by 1.1, so it will increase 10% increase. Similarly, if we multiply it by 1.2, it will increase by 20%. If we increase 200 by 1.3, it will increase by 30%. Similarly, if we want to decrease by 10%, decrease, in that case we will multiply it by 0.9. Okay, that is, we will see how this happens. So suppose 200 minus 200 into 10%. So here also we will take 200 minus 200 into 10 by 100. If we take 200 common, we get 1 by 10 by 100, and if we find, it will be 200 into 1 minus 0.1. So we saw if 200 suppose is decreased by 20%, so what we will do, we will simply multiply it by 0.8. okay, so this is the thing. Like suppose there is any number, suppose x, if we want to increase it by 10%, multiply it by 0.1, increase it by 20%, multiply by 1.2, or suppose increase by 40%, multiply by 1.4. Now on the other hand, if you want to decrease it by 10%, multiply by 0.9, decrease by 20%, multiply by 0.8, and if you want to decrease by suppose 60%, in that case multiply by 1 minus 0.6, that is 0.4. So you can use these to directly calculate without going too much into following the steps, because these are very easy and it will shoot up your calculation speed. Successive percentage. So what is successive percentage? Suppose if any number is like 200, if we increase it by 10% and we further increase it by 20%, and in next step if we increase it by 30%, so what is the final value? So we know that whenever we increase any number by 10%, we multiply the number by 1.1. Similarly, if we increase any number by 20%, we multiply it by 1.2, and if we increase any number by 30%, we multiply it by 1.3. So this is our final answer. So if suppose 30 is increased by 20%, and in next step it is increased by 30%, so what will be the final answer? So in this also case, 30 into 1 point, we will take 20y into next step 1.3, so we will get our final answer.